The crypto gaming sector will likely mint the most millionaires of any sector of crypto in the next era of blockchain. And that's because unlike literally every other industry, gaming already has digitally native economies where people buy and sell digital stuff just to use it. They are circular economies driven by the value of the in-game experience. And people have actually been using cryptocurrency to trade and do business in these worlds, even when it wasn't directly created by the developers for over a decade. The current gaming industry is bigger than films and music combined, and it compounds at 10% annually. It's reaching almost $200 billion per year, and we have yet to see the blood magic that occurs once you start making all the items in these games tradable and truly owned by the players. The big problem is that I've seen is people are very confused as to how they can invest into this new world of crypto gaming. Where are the places to put their chips? How do they even know how to process and evaluate different opportunities? And today, I'm going to be breaking down my approach to crypto gaming and how I'm going to be allocating my own portfolio. But it's first important that you understand exactly what problem crypto gaming solves. Ever since in-game currencies were created, most notably with World of Warcraft Gold, people have been farming these in-game currencies and selling them for Bitcoin to people around the world who don't want to spend their time doing all that work. It's estimated that this farming and selling for Bitcoin behavior dates back at least to 2012, if not earlier. And this is effectively solving a commerce issue for people in different countries within a $50 billion estimated annual industry. Another big issue here is that when players buy stuff in video games, I know I buy a lot of stuff in video games, you don't really own it, you're kind of like renting it. And one day it's almost guaranteed that the developer will effectively pull those items away from you, whether you want to keep them or not. A big example recently was Warzone, the battle royale by Call of Duty, recently just updated to a new version of the game and effectively made it so that all the skins that players had bought in the first version were no longer usable. They effectively stole millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of skin purchases from their own community and set them to zero. This really makes it clear you don't own anything. You're just a peasant living on the land of the lords here. This is both a problem as well as an opportunity, because by opening these networks that clearly have so much economic activity and value to billions of people around the world, making them more fair, transparent, and predictable, well, there's a huge economic opportunity there. Now, what I'm going to show you is how I'm breaking up my crypto gaming portfolio by category of project. But before I do that, I want to explain to you my thesis on why crypto gaming is going to work and what's going to set it off. Now, first and foremost, I get a lot of people asking me, why hasn't crypto gaming exploded yet? And the answer is very simple. There is not yet a hit game. The first hit game is going to change the world of crypto gaming and open everyone's eyes to the value that crypto actually brings to online gaming. However, gaming is a hits-driven business, and until we get a hit, it's going to be unlikely to see a sector-wide explosion of interest. Now, with that said, once that first game breaks through into the mainstream, and we're talking millions of active monthly players, hopefully over 10 million active monthly players, and that way we can see the first real multiplayer game hitting that Twitch culture, which I think is the most important variable to focus on. Once that happens, millions of people are going to turn their attention to the crypto gaming sector and ask, well, what's going on here? What's coming up next? How can I get involved? And I believe there's going to be a tsunami of interest in all the projects, whether it's infrastructure, actual gaming titles, publishers, tooling, and many other opportunities in the space. But it all starts with that one hit, which is impossible to say exactly when it's going to happen. Only that I believe strongly that it is going to happen. Now, if you're going to invest in this space, it's important to realize these altcoins are super, super risky. Even Bitcoin is super risky, and many think it could still go to zero. Not me, obviously. Zero. But this would be extremely more risky than Bitcoin, and if it works out, a much, much higher reward ratio. If you are skillful enough to grab a coin or project that does perform, I believe the gains in this industry will be extreme. And I'll explain the sectors that I think are going to be the highest risk reward. Check this out. I have my portfolio of gaming projects broken up into 5 categories, even though, to be honest, tooling and infrastructure could be combined into one category. Now, the top category here that I think is easiest to focus on for people is infrastructure. Now, infrastructure are things like actual blockchains, layer 2 scaling solutions, specific projects built to host or publish lots of other projects. So you end up with lots of bets on what could potentially be the catalyst for that, or things that other projects could use to enhance their own success. And those are always going to be diversified solidified bets. So even if 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 games fail that are using that solution, all it takes is the one game that succeeds to make that whole solution very successful. These infrastructure plays are also more native to crypto-minded people. They want to bet on tooling, on infra, on protocols, and they will most likely appreciate even if they don't have real success or real protocol market fit. They're probably going to go up as soon as crypto gaming gets hot. And that, my friends, is the reality for a lot of these tokens. Any token that's widely associated with crypto gaming is going to go bananas and explode with gains as soon as the market validates this industry once again, which I believe, again, my personal belief, is a matter of when, not if. This is my thesis, is that once we get one hit game, the entire industry is going to explode with speculative fever, and the smart investor would get their bags packed well before that happens, so that when it does happen, whenever it happens, you can sit back, laugh, and enjoy the ride instead of wildly chasing. Now, infrastructure. I have this divided up. Again, crypto gaming will be a subset of your actual portfolio. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 50%. You're a hardcore crypto gaming guy. As an aside, if you count actually the equity in the projects I've started, the tokens in the projects I've started, my actual seed investments and holdings, yeah, my actual crypto gaming exposure is astronomically high. But if you're just a normal person, I don't think it should be as high as mine is. I'm literally eyeballs deep in crypto gaming, FYI. That said, within my crypto gaming portfolio, here's how I have roughly my portfolio allocated. 50% to infrastructure. I have specific games at 25%. I have tooling at 10%. I have Launchpads at 12%, and I have Metaverse at 3%. Now, I'm gonna go into each one of these categories and show you a bunch of projects within them. And then I'm also going to tell you this, which is the percent I have still in cash waiting to be deployed to these actual buckets. So of my infrastructure bucket, I actually have half deployed and half in cash. And that's because this infrastructure stuff is mostly like just crypto in general, your protocol stuff, right? It's gonna go up and down mostly with the markets, and that's been shown more or less to be the case, especially as I go through some of the stuff I'm holding. Now, I also have your risk and reward here. Now, I think of the infrastructure risk as about medium, and that's because this could be kind of unused infrastructure, and it'll still go crazy with the bull run if they have a big enough sort of marketing engine and just brand themselves well. We saw this with like Decentraland in the Metaverse Mania last time. Nobody was really using it that much, but it went absolutely insane on the charts. And I believe that that'll happen again with the big infrastructure projects, even if they're not getting the adoption that maybe they would like, or that would indicate big mainstream adoption. So from a risk to reward standpoint, you have a medium risk, but a high return. I think these projects could easily do 10x, probably 20 to 50x some of them. So you have the chance of them pumping is medium. If you're in the good ones, I think it's pretty likely. And the rewards can be high. Whereas some of these other ones, for example, specific games, the actual risk is super high. And the thing is, if nobody plays that specific game, your investment could rapidly go to zero. But if that game takes off and becomes a big economy of scale, well, the cool thing about gaming is sky's the limit, fam. There could literally be hundreds of millions of people playing this game. Think about hundreds of millions of people in an economy of scale. I mean, the numbers are absolutely boggling to the mind. So the potential reward for an individual game is by far the highest, but the risk that it won't be the one that's picked is also quite high. So you have to understand, these are your super high risk, high reward ones where the potential is there, but the risk of picking the wrong one is very real. Now, tooling I think of as also high because there's plenty of tools that won't find a problem to solve. And the question is, will they be sexy enough to really get that big pump? So I think of tools as kind of a high risk with a medium reward, and that's why it's a smaller bucket in my portfolio. Now, Launchpads are those things that are actually going to suck at first and be totally useless right now in the crypto gaming bear market, but they will exponentially increase in the amount of value that they present during the bull. Now, if you notice, I'll go through my cash positions in a second, which will help you understand my approach. And finally, we have Metaverse, which is super high risk, high reward, obviously very high reward, but it's a super dead narrative. And I'll explain why it's a very tiny part of my entire crypto gaming portfolio in a second. First, let's go into infrastructure. Because I roughly see this as just protocols in crypto, it's about following my normal DCA into the market. That is following alongside things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatnot. So I'm about 50% allocated to those. Now, specific games, what you'll notice is that I'm only 20% allocated to specific games. And that's because this is a hits-driven business. Even though I do have probably more active investments in games than you could ever imagine, the reality is I have a lot of money sitting there earmarked for when I start seeing a game work. And that is marked by players actually playing the game, coming back, and it holding and growing an online user base. Once you start to see that, you want to add to those. Because even though they might be more expensive when you find them, that significantly lowers the ultimate risk of the question, does anybody want this game in the first place? Could this be a hit? Because if it's a hit, the question of how big it can get could get scary. So I have a pool of cash there ready to deploy as soon as we see these games starting to work in market. Boom, I'll hop on them. Now you'll ask, why do I already have some money in the market? Well, I'm actually deploying into seed deals whenever I see them for proven founders. Some of those are actually in fiat, so I don't even really count those in my crypto portfolio. And to be honest, I actually hold a lot of gaming tokens, but that's just because of my legacy of investing here. If I were to be starting over from a fresh portfolio, I would have 80% still in cash or stablecoins waiting for these opportunities. I would not have it deployed necessarily exactly like I have it. Just having full disclosure here, this number, 20% in cash of your 100% allocation, waiting for specific games, is how I would do it if I didn't have my history in crypto gaming investing. Next, tooling. Once again, sometimes these are tools looking for a problem to solve. And what I've seen is that there's actually some really cool tools that are being created and brought to market. So I'm saving my cash expenditure, right? You can see I have 75% still in cash because the coolest tools are still coming to market right now, and it's unclear which ones are going to be favorited. So I'm going to deploy to the ones that are getting traction with games, and then I'm also going to save some money for seed deals that are really well priced. Again, seed investing and early allocation investing is something that is really hard to get access to during the peak of the bull market, but during the bear market, it's actually much easier. And that's because of the next category, which is Launchpads. Launchpads are something that, as you can tell, I'm fully allocated towards. I'm fully allocated towards Launchpads because they are dirt cheap in the bear market. They are dirt cheap right now because nobody cares about getting into gaming deals. As soon as gaming deals start going crazy, these Launchpad tokens will explode with value. So it makes total sense for you to get your Launchpad tokens now, fully allocate to them, knowing that if the gaming market comes back like I believe it will, or like you might believe it will, well, those will become rapidly so expensive that you'll wish you had already gotten set up for those deals. Because there's a lot of deals even now starting to come to market that aren't going to be as sexy when they hit the market, and you're going to wish you had that pre-sale allocation. And finally, we have Metaverse. I'm completely unallocated to Metaverse, but I do have one, a little more than one, but I have a few that I like, and I'll explain how that's working as we go. But again, this narrative is just the most dead of them all, pretty much the extreme high risk, and there's a big argument that the Oasis will not be built by a crypto team, but more on that later. I just realized I've been filming for 20 minutes and I haven't even gotten into the intro here. So without further ado, let's get to this stuff. The first project I want to talk about is Immutable X. This is part of our infrastructure bucket, and they are probably the best known piece of infrastructure in the gaming space. This has to do with their branding and their technology, but you could definitely put them as, key infrastructure for gaming. They have products like this Passport, which allows for a seamless login to create your own crypto wallet so you don't have to deal with the technology. Interesting stuff here, but this is where Immutable is starting to really shine. I want to be very clear. Again, I am an Immutable X seed investor. I invested in them years ago, I think at the beginning of 2021, and I still have never sold a token. I'm a huge fan of what they're doing. I believe they're going to crush it in the next bull market, so that's why I am babysitting my bags here and hoping that they do crush it. I hope that they do. I certainly am holding heavy bags. I just want to be clear whenever I hold something I talk about that you're aware of that. So the big thing here is that they're creating really this next gen ZK EVM, which allows for ZK technology to allow for these stacks of app chains on top of their chain, meaning that you could have your own dedicated chain for your AAA game. One of the big things I've been saying is all these games will become their own chains. Like if I have a massive economy and a massive game, the last thing I care about is getting the network clogged because someone else had, an NFT drop or something like that. It's just totally unacceptable. So if I'm a big successful gaming title, I need for sure reliable infrastructure. And that means I'm going to want my own chain. So that's why I really like this stackable ZK EVM. So every one of these big games can have their own dedicated app chain. That's absolutely huge. This is done obviously in partnership with Polygon Edge. I'm not sure the exact tokenomics interlacing here. You can go ahead and throw Polygon in here, even though Polygon to me is a more general approach to layer 2s. Again, Immutable is a specific one on layer 2s for gaming. The other thing that they're doing here is enforceable royalties. That's really big for a game developer. It's just not an acceptable outcome to say, oh yeah, Blur took away your royalties. Like a lot of the NFT marketplaces are circumventing royalties right now, and that is not going to fly. If you're a big game developer and you're selling permanent items with the expectations that trading is going to create an ongoing revenue stream for the game, well, you cannot have some third-party marketplace just usurp you on your fees. No, why would you publish there? You're just not going to add NFTs if it takes away money from you like that. So you need to have enforceable royalties, period. And that's another thing that Immutable has done here, because it really has to happen at the protocol level. You cannot have any smart contract that prevents it, as Ethereum has proven. They also have a bunch of games here. Gods Unchained, Alluvium's one of the bigger titles in the space, has a big market cap. Ember Sword, they have a bunch of titles. Some are better known than others, but you can see that there are real games and actually plenty of developers building on Immutable. If I had to pick one big flaw from Immutable, it's that they still haven't gotten their hit yet. Once they have a hit on their chain, on their technology, all this stuff is going to start really clicking, but they have a massive, massive war chest to go after that hit and find it. I'm a big fan of Immutable. I hold it. I'm a seed investor. I've talked about it several times, and I think that they are an easy way to get access to crypto gaming as a proxy, because if crypto gaming pops off, they've branded themselves in such a way that they will most likely grow with the growth of that narrative. Just simple and plain. The next one I'm going to talk about is Merit Circle. Now, this one was more recently came on my radar because it was originally a guild where it would bring players together and they would team up and effectively farm stuff from play to earn games, and then it would go into the guild. Without going too deep into that, they've become much more complex project, and they are now infrastructure. What's interesting is they have this treasury that they were able to create with like over $100 million in tokens, and the treasury has stayed pretty consistent. If you look throughout November 2021 into 2022, they've managed to maintain a massive amount of treasury in here. And so what they're doing is they're actually generating returns from that treasury by doing investments. They've done over 40 seed investments. And now what their big sort of change is that they're doing this thing called Beam Network. So I'm going to simplify this. Effectively, they've built this blockchain Beam. They've built a marketplace for games on the blockchain. They've seed invested a bunch of games that they're looking to onboard to use these tools. And so they have sort of several layers here of a blockchain that's technically a subnet on Avalanche. So it's a customizable subnet. It runs through the Avalanche protocol, but it's its own chain. Beam is the base token of that chain. They're trying to get games to use that chain as well as use their marketplace where they charge fees. And so it can generate more fees based on all the trading inside the game. And overall, they're building what I can safely call is a robust crypto gaming ecosystem. Now, again, the big issue here is going to be just like Immutable. Can they get a hit game or at least some successful games to take advantage, create lots of volume and trading excitement over on Beam? That's going to be the question, because if they can, then this thing is set up to do really well. If they can't, well, they do have this DAO treasury model, which the thing is, it's actually done pretty well here. So the thing is, they're managing to preserve funds and generate returns, which implies some value to their network here. As you can see, Merit Circle, they do not have a small market cap. It's 217 million. But that's most of their tokens are out in the market. 294 million is their fully diluted valuation. So most of the tokens are out there. And if you look, it's pretty wiped out, the chart, right? It's pretty wiped out. If we go to the market cap, it's pretty wiped out. They peaked as a market cap in the bull run at 400 something million, and they're here at 200. So it's reasonable that they'll get back to their peak market cap here. That's what I think. Full disclosure, I'm currently in the process of getting my position in. I don't currently hold it, but I plan to add it to my portfolio, and that would fall into my infrastructure bucket. Now, the other big infrastructure project is Gala Games. Now, they were like an absolutely astronomically high price. They're down 99% pretty much. They were trading up here at, what was this, 71 cents right now, and they are 1.5 cents. So that's a big fall. But one of the things that I was able to actually find out is that Gala Games' tokenomics have wildly improved because they have way less inflation. As of right now, as I understand it, out of the total tokens, they have about 27 billion in the market right now. 27 billion tokens are circulating, and they've actually burned 21 billion. So there's only 29 billion that could be the total supply. So there's only 2 billion that can come in, which is less than, about 10% inflation total in the future, which is way better than what it was back at the peak, which was astronomically high, the inflation. So from an inflation standpoint, they've gotten way better. Now, they are a publisher, so they have a bunch of different gaming titles that they're publishing here. They have Champions Arena, Dragon Strike Legacy, Poker Go Play, Common Ground World, Spider Tanks. They have a bunch of games here on Gala Games, and they keep investing in studios to bring more games to market. Again, the X factor that I'll say here is that none of these games are hits per se. They are liked and played, but they're not hits that people would say are breakout successes yet. Gala Games does have a democratized model though, and let's just be real, they are branded really well within the crypto gaming niche. So if and when I believe this is going to happen, gaming explodes, I believe Gala, like Immutable X and those others, will most likely see easy price appreciation. What that looks like, I'm not going to put exact targets on. If you close your eyes and you tell me that the crypto gaming market exploded with popularity, I could tell you with certainty that Gala is higher in price as a result of it. And that's the type of exposure that you like to see in the infrastructure space. You're betting on infra because you don't know exactly which hit it's going to be. So you want to get general exposure. Things like Gala, IMX, Merit Circle, these are general infra plays that should do well with crypto gaming. Another one that I think is an easy bet for this market is Ronin. And that's because Ronin here is the blockchain behind Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity is by far the biggest, most successful crypto game in history by a lot of metrics. And even though people want to write it off as just a pump and dump or a Ponzi or whatever play to earn ended up being, the facts are that when you think crypto game, you think Axie Infinity, and this is the blockchain behind it. And so when crypto gaming does take off, I do think Ronin has a place in anyone's portfolio simply due to the branding. Again, I think specific chains like Ronin will struggle against more general purpose solutions, things that allow you to be closer to Ethereum. Everyone wants to be on Ethereum. So while Ronin is a side chain sort of built like Ethereum, it simply isn't Ethereum, and Immutable X is a much better and more direct way to have sort of ETH native assets. And so that's why Ronin is a much smaller part of my infrastructure play, but it's still in there. And my final pick here is Ready Games, which is a public SDK, which allows for effectively game devs to onboard to any chain of their choice. They already have some active games here with lots of users. They have this very seamless wallet creation, but most importantly, they sort of allow for developers just to develop and then to onboard into any blockchain and to automatically get accepted by the iOS store and the Android stores, which is really kind of a tricky sticking point. So they do solve some actual problems for developers. But what I like here is that they were able to actually convince these studios that they onboarded to use their ReadyX token for all the stuff within their game, like crafting, governance, rewards. This is actually huge. They got these studios not to create their own new tokens, but to build on top of the ReadyX token, which isn't live yet. And I technically am not an investor in this token yet, though I am in talks with the team and looking at investing. So that's it for my infrastructure part of the video. Now, did I miss any infrastructure in the blockchain gaming space? You tell me. Let me know if I missed any infrastructure plays that you would like to see me cover. I'd like to make sure that they're on my radar for when we do the next video. Now, going back to this list, I want to be clear. The next sector is specific games. Now, this is going to be your highest risk, highest reward type of category. While it's going to be difficult to predict the games that work, what you're really going to want to see is what's the marketing strategy? And most importantly, not only do you think the game looks good, because there's a lot of games that look really good. We'll talk about them here in a second. But what are the competitors like? Because things like first-person shooters, while that is like the classic game category, you're also competing with the absolute highest amount of developers that have the biggest incomes. So the question really becomes, is the Call of Duty or Apex Legends or Counter-Strike or Valorant player going to switch to this new first-person shooter, which might not have the decades of experience and the history, the brand history, the player base that it needs to compete? That's where I look at path to market. And I think that's going to be a really important factor here, which is which of these games are actually going to be able to carve out their own creative path to market. And I'm not going to pretend to know everything because it is a hits-driven business. You can't predict every hit or every flop, but that is what dictates my personal strategy on how I'm going to invest. Now, some noteworthy games here are Illuvium. Illuvium is considered kind of like the biggest AAA first mover game that really has made a lot of waves. And the valuation of the company certainly speaks to that. You can see it's a 400 million fully diluted with 250 million circulating market cap. Now, for me, I'm not a holder of Illuvium, but I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that they're going to go out and kill it with their game launch. Illuvium was always just a little too expensive for me to buy based on their current stage, but they're extremely well funded. And the main thing I want to remind people of is every single game that becomes a hit makes it incredibly easy for every other crypto game to then gain attention. And in fact, it blazes a trail. So I'm always rooting for all of these games. I want to be very clear. Even if I don't hold them, I'm rooting for them to succeed. But maybe Illuvium is the right game for you. If you like auto battlers, they have several different game modes. I'd highly encourage you to at least research and check out Illuvium. It's a beautiful looking game. Now, the next amazing looking game is going to be Shrapnel. Now, this was created by a super AAA team. They have major mainstream influencers like Myth, who are big Twitch streamers behind them. And as you can see, it is just a sick looking first person shooter. Now, I've been talking with this team. They have a lot of really cool stuff they're doing, allowing people to create maps and stuff within the game, create user generated experiences, own pieces of land they can customize in game modes. Really cool stuff here. Again, this is gorgeous as a game. I'm certainly interested in this ecosystem, but it's important to realize that this is competing for that top spot in gaming, which is going to be that immersive first-person shooter. So while this is probably one of the most professional-looking games in the industry, they have some stiff competition in the likes of Call of Duty and Apex Legends and stuff like that. Again, I'm rooting for these guys, and Shrapnel is one of the best-looking Web3 games I've seen. Next, I'm going to talk about Impostors, which is the game that my team has been building now for quite some time and is in the social deduction category. Now, one of the reasons why we chose this category is precisely for all the reasons that I explained, which is that the path is very clear on how to market a game like this. Games like Among Us have over 600 million players around the world, and there's still not big AAA competitors competing for this genre. It's still a relatively off the beaten path genre. But as a content creator, I've actually gotten to know some of the biggest streamers in the entire world with videos with 20, 30 million views playing Among Us, and I asked them what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and the entire experience of Impostors is reverse engineered to give creators these viral moments that they love so much. That is precisely what makes these social games so exciting, is that they are fodder for content creators to entertain their audiences. In fact, I've been told by some of the biggest creators on YouTube that they absolutely adore this genre and that it's their favorite for getting a viral video and actually having it come much easier. And that's why Impostors fits into something that we're calling creator first gaming, which is effectively the concept of focusing the entire process of creating the game on what the actual players are going to do to make content about that game. We look at the game itself as a toolkit for content creators, not just an in-game experience. And the reason why this is so important is because in this genre, the popularity of the game is almost exclusively dictated by how many videos are being made about the game, the in-game experience, the memes, the hijinks. And we've been focusing entirely on how to build a toolkit for content creators that is actually a painkiller that allows them to get their viral moments, their YouTube clickbaits as painlessly as possible. And that's the philosophy of creator first gaming that we're taking to Impostors. And that's why this project, in my opinion, is wildly different than a lot of the other crypto games. The goal is not to slightly modify an existing title out there and just add some NFTs, but it's to look at a genre that is rapidly growing in popularity and was almost non-existent just a few years ago. And we believe as people become more digitally native, will become a bigger and bigger chunk of the gaming pie over time. We believe there's a lot of legs in the social gaming category, specifically if you're able to please the content creators. And that's what we set out to do. On the next episode, we'll actually be introducing a new member of the team, the new head of studio, who's a phenomenal veteran of the industry, and have some more amazing news for you. But one of the things that I think crypto game projects need to do an even better job of is to focus not just on building amazing games, but also on putting love into the NFT side of things and making it so that the NFT world that has been created here can actually find the things they love within the game. Now, for that reason, we've actually updated our 3D character for Impostors in the NFT and added 2D PFP art to go with it. Because as this game readies itself for launch and the product moves forward, we want the NFT world to be able to come in and have fun. And so this is just one little milestone of many that the project has shipped. But I wanted to show you guys because I absolutely love this new 2D art we've done, and we're going to use it to scale a lot of the storytelling, memes, GIFs, and all this cool content we're going to be doing around the Impostors universe. Check this out. As you can see, we have crushed through so many of our initial roadmap items, and we're now getting to surprise people with a bunch of new stuff. But we're super excited about the trajectory of Impostors and the potential for taking a different approach, focusing on creators, a tool set to entertain people's audiences, because if content's being made about this game, it'll be relevant, it'll be liked, and it has the potential to overcome some of the stigmas that we've been seeing in mainstream gaming culture towards NFTs. We win the battle of pleasing the content creators, we win the war for crypto gaming. That's the thesis of Impostors. And to be clear, once again, this is my project. I'm not making any price predictions or any predictions at all. I'm co-founder of Impostors, which is part of the Superverse. Check out Superverse to understand how this all fits together. I just want to be clear, me and this team are passionately working on this product each and every single day and loving it, because I believe this is the absolute biggest market to provide a solution for, to actually solve the problems of crypto adoption globally. All right, now the next project I'm gonna talk about is called Parallel, and they have a token called Prime. This originally started as an NFT project, but as you can see, Prime launched recently, and it has had a nice little run here. It started off at like $1, and it hit about 450, so it did about a 300% gain when it launched. This game is effectively an auto battler. It's a turn-based card game that allows you to build a deck and actually battle and earn tokens and do all these things. It's much more of a direct relationship between your NFT assets and the video game. Now, personally, I'm not a huge card game player, and essentially the gold standard in card games is Hearthstone, and we've seen a lot of card games try to come from the NFT side and then build a game around it, most famously Gods Unchained, which was the original project by Immutable. And these have a huge potential. However, we just have yet to see one really have any success outside of crypto. The cool thing about these projects is that they can actually get enough transactions and holders and excitement within the crypto space that they behave almost a little bit like DeFi projects. So if there's enough whales sort of accumulating, trading, and using the on-chain stuff, they can have nice little runs. But what we really want to see is those Web 2 gaming audiences getting in and starting to rush in and build a really big product adoption for a game. That said, Prime is definitely one that you want to have on your radar, and it's more on the on-chain side of the gaming sphere, but it's a cool game nonetheless. And once again, I'm rooting for them, just like I'm rooting for every other game out there. Honorable mention once again to My Pet Hooligans. They are absolutely one of the most fun animation studios, built a really fun game here, and they're in early release on Epic Game Store. You can go play them right now. Shout out to the Hoolie Gang. They bring really like Disney Pixar level animations and storytelling, and so this is just a starting point for them. Let's see if they can build a nice player base. Now, I want to be clear, no game so far is successful by Web 2 standards. There's not a single game that's a hit yet. And that's why most of my chips that are not already invested through, pre-sales and seed deals or whatever into crypto games is sitting there in stable coins. Because when I see a game start to get some widespread adoption, I see players sharing it, exploding on Twitch, tons of players rushing in, I'm gonna grab that cash and I'm gonna start throwing it at that game, because those trains could run away faster than you could ever imagine. But it's really hard to tell which ones are going to be hits. So instead of playing the guessing game, I'm going to wait until I see what's validated by the market and then throw a ton of capital at the things that are going. Because the first few games that actually are able to hit product market fit could literally be worth $100 billion in market cap. I mean, Axie Infinity was at like 40 or 50 billion dollars in market cap, and that was literally a casual game. I just think that the potential for these big games once they become hits is astronomical, but it's really hard to predict which ones they're going to be. So I'm keeping most of my chips sidelined until I see the market validate it. That said, personally, I spend most of my time working on Impostors, working on Superverse. That's where I allocate my whole life. And so I encourage you guys, check out Impostors, check out Superverse. That's what I'm working on. I haven't been out here beating the drum about these projects, and that's because it's much more important during the bear market to focus on building real value, real product, real progress, so that when the heat of the market comes back, your project can be the shining star. That should be the goal of any builder in the bear market, period. Now that brings us to tooling, Launchpad, and Metaverse. I'm gonna go through this a little faster. Now tooling, I'm not gonna talk about actually in specific. Again, this is going to depend on whether these tools actually get adoption. Now they could actually pump, but I don't think tools are as sexy, especially if they're not getting massive amounts of use. So that's why I don't think they're gonna pump quite as hard. I have them as a smaller chunk of my portfolio, but a chunk nonetheless. If I see a really underpriced deal or a really cheap deal, I might go for it if I think there's upside there, but it's not a primary thesis that I'm using. But but I'll tell you what is Launchpads. And there are two Launchpads in specific that I want to bring your attention to. The first one is Defi. Now, Defi is a well-known Launchpad. They were pretty much the only gaming launchpad last run, and they had a bunch of launches that they did. Now, the thing is, during the bear market, this token for Defi that you need to have a certain amount of to get into these launches, you can see it's down over 95%. And when the real gaming bull happens, Defi tokens were going for $10 here, and you needed, here you can see the tiers. Check it out. In order to get into these deals, the lowest tier is 250 S fund. So right now, that's not even $200 to get in. Now, of course, you probably won't see any deals worth having. And again, launchpads typically have lower quality deals. If you're looking at something like Defi, it'll be a lower quality type of token. But when the heat of the market hits, all the absolute crap is going to fly. And so a lot of these deals will make a ton of money really easily. And so these are the types of things that once the market gets hot, if you have one of these tiers, you'll probably be able to get easy flips of tokens that are going to launch with some hype around them. And whatever these cost right now, it's at a 95% discount from when the market was hot. And that's why I am fully allocated right now to Launchpads, is because the benefit of having these in the bear is tremendous. And once the bull heats up, it's just going to get really expensive to get these Launchpad tokens. So Defi will be the Launchpad for like the stuff that's not elite, that's not making their big own launches, or probably not like the AAA stuff here. But when the market's hot, these lower quality gaming tokens can still absolutely rip. And so having some Defi tokens for that future Launchpad moment, whenever that might be, is something that I've chosen to do. Now, the second Launchpad is actually Neotokyo. Now, Neotokyo, as you well know, is a brainchild between Alex Becker and myself, and it is the self-branded crypto gaming Illuminati. Now, I could go on and on about how cool Neotokyo is, and that community is one of the most thriving, interesting places I've ever been in my life. But one of the cool things that's coming up is that one of the community members founded a launchpad within Neotokyo to serve Neotokyo. And because so many gaming projects want the Neotokyo citizens to join in and support their project because of how diamond-handed they are and how passionate they are about crypto gaming, Neotokyo is attracting all kinds of early opportunities and off-market opportunities. And so in so many ways, you might have the opportunity to get access to deals that I'm looking at that might not be publicly available, and that would be through Neotokyo. Again, I don't run that. The project itself doesn't run that, but citizens have created this project on their own, and it really shows the decentralized power of the Neotokyo community and really this experimental ideology of building this insane group of people to then build this crypto gaming Illuminati. It's a real networking club here, and one of the cool perks here is deal flow. So if you want to get into these deals, getting a Neotokyo citizen, the season 1 citizen can get bigger chunks of the deals, the season 2 citizens get smaller chunks of the deals. Again, I don't control any of that stuff. The project doesn't control that stuff. That's actually being run by a group of community members. Really, really cool stuff to see this decentralized development happening. So to recap, Defi and Neotokyo are two easy ways. I believe higher quality opportunities are coming through the Neotokyo launchpad, and a great example of that is that Dr. Disrespect's new project, Midnight Society, actually did an equity round where they opened it up to Neotokyo citizens, and so you could actually invest directly into Dr. Disrespect's new project, Dead Drop, or Midnight Society, the company building Dead Drop, which is honestly probably one of the top crypto games to keep your eye on, and that's because their distribution, their path to market through one of the biggest gaming creators of all time, Dr. Disrespect, well, it's preordained. It's preordained. It's gonna happen. Anyways, this video has gone on a very long time, and like I told you, there's no way we're gonna cover it all. But before we go, I'd like to thank today's sponsors, and this is Sidus Heroes. Sidus Heroes is actually not just one game, but it's actually several games here, and I have to shout them out because they've been developing this really hard. Now, full disclosure, I actually invested into Sidus Heroes way back in the day when they first launched. Fully disclosure, I'm also way down on that investment, but that's a different topic. I still hold the token. And one of the things I like about this project, and the reason why I let them sponsor today's video, is that they've just been building their heads off. They have a real-time strategy game. They have a browser, which is a shooter that they have, Tembazar, which you can literally play right here in your browser. They have Nidium, which is again an arena battler. And yeah, what's cool about them is they have this really big emphasis on browser-based gaming technology. They allow you to play these super high fidelity games right there in browser. You can see right here, it just says play in browser right here on the right. and I can just click in and I can just start playing. So as you can see, this 3v3 deathmatch team fight mode, it's pretty high quality, you know, especially for a browser game. It's actually shocking what can be done in the browser, and they actually have some proprietary technology that they're using to create this. So they're very bullish on the idea that having low specs and low requirements for your PC is going to allow for a lot more players to come in. They also have a bunch of games here. They have Xena here, which is a real-time strategy game. If you're more into the strategy games, they have Arena Battlers, Neotokyo. They have their browser TPS shooter again. And last time I checked, they also had an RPG. They've also applied a lot of different AI within their games. Anyway, they've clearly been building some cool stuff, and they're very big on this browser-based gaming. They have a bunch of titles. So again, check them out and put them on your watch list, as it's been almost 2 years now, and it seems like the team is still pushing pretty hard. So again, put them on your list of things to watch in case they're able to start finding some serious players for their titles. All right, this file was over an hour when I filmed it. I'm not sure how long it's going to be during editing, but there you go. You have infrastructure, you have specific games, you have tooling, you have Launchpads, and then you also have Metaverse. Now, Metaverse I didn't talk about, and that's because I'm not a big believer that any specific blockchain project is going to solve the Metaverse question, but I do have 3% of my crypto gaming portfolio set aside in case there is a convincing Metaverse. One of the ones I'm looking at is Ape. Whether other side, the Bored Ape Metaverse is going to materialize into something crazy. I mean, they have this all-star team with executives from Blizzard and Epic Games and all kinds of crazy star-studded lineup. It's a really tall order, and it's very possible that something like Roblox or Fortnite might actually end up becoming a much more likely hub for the metaverse. Maybe Unreal Engine itself is what transforms and becomes the base layer of the metaverse. It's really hard to predict, and metaverse is such a big term that that's where I think the sort of bearish argument comes, is that maybe we're about 5+ years away from metaverse, whereas a crypto game could pop off and become a mainstream hit at any time. Most likely, if I were to place a date on it, I'd say late 2024, we're going to start seeing the first big hits for crypto gaming. And with that hit will come an absolute tsunami of new interest, new users, and of course, money. I hope this video helped you. If it did, if it was useful to you and you appreciate all the time, energy, and research that goes into a video like this, make sure to smash that like button, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe, because we're going to be doing all kinds of deep dive research on this channel, helping you get ahead and stay ahead of the most important trends in crypto, gaming, the internet, and beyond. As always, I'm EllioTrades. If you enjoyed this episode, there's another one popping up right here. Check it out, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.